You're tuned in to Rebooting Liberty.
Have you ever wanted to have your own radio show? Rebooting Liberty Radio Network currently has openings for live programs. For a very small fee, we will create a show intro, bumper music, and provide technical production for your hour-long show. Email producer@rebootingliberty.com for details. You can find us at live.rebootingliberty.com.
K98Talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98Talk.com.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
You know what time it is, so sit back and get ready for the Stafford Voice, your dose of conservative in a world of liberal.
3, 2, 1.
Hey! Good evening or good morning, depending on where you are. That's right, we are live. You can join the chat room over at k98talk.com/chat-room. And if you aren't aware, I am your host, Daniel Stafford, and you are listening to the Stafford Voice, where we are conservative in a world of liberal. And tonight, oh my gosh, the rundown is incredible. We're going to start things off with a poem from 19 BC. We're going to go ahead and jump into some of the Paris talk about a Trojan horse or something like that. We're going to talk about Obama's G20 Summit Press Conference. And finally, the liberal media turning on him and just grilling him at that conference. Absolutely fantastic job on their part. Also, if we can fit it in, and this actually comes from a listener. A listener actually threw this out at me and said I needed to look it up because he knew that he's heard me talk about it before. Liberalism is a mental disorder, and kudos to listener, good buddy of mine over on Twitter, Army John. Absolutely love that guy. That guy's got my 6 at any time, and I am extremely grateful to him and all of his support. He threw something at me that just totally blew my mind. So if we can get to it, hopefully we can. I want to talk about how liberalism really is a mental disorder. So you're going to have to tune into that if we can get to it. Hopefully we can. Also, we've got some On This Day in History, and yes, we will end the show with something incredibly ignorant that somebody said. That's just, I'm still scratching my head at this. It's unreal. The fact that this guy's got followers amazes me. Really does. So, yeah, we've got a lot to talk about tonight, and wow, we only have a handful of minutes to fit it all in. But look, there's so many different ways you can listen. You can be sitting around the game table at home. You got the phone on. The game's on in the background. You're not listening to that because you're tuned in. You want to know what's going on out in the world. So you're either on your cell phone, your laptop. Hey, you can even have it on your Roku device. Yes, that's right. You can have it on your Roku device. Whatever you have to do, set the channel as a favorite. You don't want to get left behind. It's that easy. Click subscribe, and you'll be tuned in whenever we go live. And by the way, if for some strange, crazy reason, yes, you do miss the show, it's okay. So sit tight. There's no need to panic. I've got you. And in the case you aren't already following on social media, well, shame on you. Anyway, find me over on the Twitters at Stafford Voice. Look me up on Facebook. All you got to do is just search for The Stafford Voice. It's that easy. Get some conversation going over there. If you need a little more room than 140 characters and a couple of hashtags, because if you're like me, I'm kind of long-winded, and 140 characters just doesn't fit me. So I like to carry it over on the Facebook page. Also, follow my good friends with the Polititainment group. We got Artist Angie, we've got Pointless Poll or Zol or whatever the heck he's going by this week. We don't know. We just know that he's there. He does stuff. Also, we've got Jason DeWilkins of According to Me. I think he's taken a little bit of a hiatus. He needs to take a break. That guy's a powerhouse. Brings it every week on his show, Wednesdays. I think he's going to be off this week. So I'm going to have to find something to do on Wednesday nights. It's just going to be totally bummed. Anyway, be sure to also send some love to the station and our handful of affiliates. We're greatly appreciative of what they do and helping give us a way to talk to you. Also, I know, yes, you can stay up to date with all the other mainstream sites, or you can stay up to date over at thestaffordvoice.com. Yes, I know, I've been a slacker throughout the week since last week's show. Just had a lot that happened, and trying to really understand what was happening in the world, you kind of forget about posting on some stuff. So, whatever, we'll catch you up. Since you're already there, please do me a favor and fill out that short survey at the top of the page. Uncle Sam wants you to take a survey. It's 5 questions. It's literally going to take you less than 5 minutes. And that kind of gives me an idea of what you guys are looking for. So I'm extremely grateful for those of you that have. And I'm also extremely grateful for each one of you that helps support the show, because this show is a little different. You don't hear a lot of ads, maybe 1 or 2, but the ads that we do have, they're our friends. They have products that we believe in, and that's why we help promote them, because they help promote us. Because this, like I said, this show is a little different than the ones you would normally tune into. Completely listener-supported and listener-funded. So look for that to happen at the start of 2016. There'll be more information on that, on how you can help. So let's go ahead and dive right in, shall we? Oh, boy. Over the weekend, I had something hit me, and it was kind of like getting kicked in the chest by a horse. And it just dawned on me that the story of the Trojan horse. So I looked into it. I'm okay. I'm decently familiar with it. But so I looked into it a little further, and it goes back to I don't think he is the original author, but he touched on it, and he put out his own rendition. Virgil, who in the Aeneid back in 19 BC, talked about the Trojan horse. And I think that it really, really fits into what we're seeing happen today. As we watch World War III unfold right before our eyes, unfortunately, not a lot of people really want to accept that. So in Book 2, he talks about some of this. So let me read to you some of this, because I find it absolutely fascinating, and it really kind of puts into perspective here towards the end, I think, of what I want to read to you. So let's jump into it. He says, "All were attentive to the godlike man, when from his lofty couch he thus began, Great Queen, what you command me to relate renews the sad remembrance of our fate, an empire from its old foundations rent, and every woe the Trojans underwent. A peopled city made a desert place, all that I saw, and part of which I was, not even the hardest of our foes could hear, nor stern Ulysses tell without a tear. And now the later watch of wasting night, and setting stars to kindly rest invite. But since you take such interest in our woe, and Troy's disastrous end desire to know, I will restrain my tears, and briefly tell what in our last and fatal night befell. By destiny compelled, and in despair, the Greeks grew weary of the tedious war, and by Minerva's aid a fabric reared, which like a steed of monstrous height appeared. The sides were planked with pine, they feigned it made for their return, and this the vow they paid. Thus they pretend, but in the hollow side selected numbers of their soldiers hide. With inward arms the dire machine they load, and iron bowels stuff the dark abode. Or so the Trojan destiny required, moved that the ramparts might be broken down, to lodge the monster fabric in the town. But Capys and the rest of sounder mind, the fetal present to the flames designed, or to the watery deep, at least to bore, the hollow sides and hidden frauds explore. The giddy vulgar and the fancies guide, with noise say nothing, and in parts divide. Laocoon, followed by a numerous crowd, ran from the fort and cried from afar aloud, O wretched countrymen, what fury reigns? What more than madness has possessed your brains? Think you the Grecians from your coasts are gone, and are Ulysses' arts no better known? This hollow fabric either must enclose within its blind recess our secret foes, or 'tis an engine raised above the town, to o'erlook the walls, and then to batter down. Somewhat is sure designed by fraud or force. Trust not their presence, nor admit the horse. Woo! Powerful portion right there from the Aeneid. And what he's talking about is how the Trojans, they put together this fancy little package, and they call it was obviously a big wooden horse, and they climbed in, and they went to go sack the town, and there was a warning. They said, "Trust not their presence, nor admit the horse," as it was approaching the city walls. And unfortunately, they let it in. Unfortunate indeed. So as we let that sink in for just a second, I want to share with you campaign roundup. This week's campaign roundup, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to let that poem sink in, and as it does, I want you to listen to what some of these candidates out there were saying throughout the week. Campaign roundup, it's breaking down stuff into bite-sized pieces so you can get an idea of what the candidates were saying. So when we come back, we're going to relate that poem about the Trojan horse. We're going to relate that to what we saw in Paris and a little bit further into Obama's G20 Summit, the press conference that he had afterwards. We'll be right back.
I don't understand it. We are at war with radical Islam, with an interpretation of Islam by a significant number of people around the world who they believe now justifies them in killing those who don't agree with their ideology. This is a clash of civilizations. There is no middle ground on this. Either they win or we win.
You know, bringing people into this country from that area of the world, I think, is a huge mistake, because why wouldn't they infiltrate them? It would be foolish for them not to do that. To bring them here under these circumstances is a suspension of intellect.
I will recognize dangers with eyes wide open, but I will also embrace with open arms the enormous opportunities and amazing potential of our times.
I think that the debt is a great threat. I think it's a threat to the very foundation of our country. I guess the problem I have is that if you're going to spend $1 trillion of new money that's going to be added to the debt, does that make us stronger or weaker?
These attacks underscore that we are facing an enemy who is fierce, who is relentless, who is at war with us even if our own president doesn't understand that it is at war with us, and who will not stop until it is defeated. That enemy is radical Islamic terrorism. As long as we have a commander-in-chief unwilling even to utter the words radical Islamic terrorism, we will not have a concerted effort to defeat these radicals before they continue to murder more and more innocents, whether Europeans or Israelis or Americans.
Okay, so yes, a lot of those quotes did happen afterwards, after the Paris attack. And it's very, very unfortunate that Paris had to go through this. I mean, this is equivalent to, I mean, for Paris, this is equivalent to our 9/11. Absolutely tragic event. I mean, we saw and witnessed a coordinated attack in, I think, 6 or 7 different locations. I think more people could have, I think more people, we could have witnessed the slaughter of and killing of more, but thankfully we didn't. It really was a tragic event to see that stuff unfold. It really was. I was beside myself when I saw what was happening. And with the power of social media, you're able to see this stuff happen as fast as it's happening. I mean, you've got a cell phone. These people have cell phones, and they get on Facebook, they get out on Twitter, they use Periscope, and they're periscoping these things as they're happening. And my God, the lamestream media to get out there, and the word of the weekend, I don't know if you picked up on it, but the word or phrase of the weekend was soft targets. Everywhere you turned, you'd hear somebody talk about a soft target. Most people don't even really understand what a soft target is. They just know that this was a coordinated attack from radical Islamic terrorists innocently killing people. Now, to relate this, how does this relate to that poem that I was reading to you earlier? Well, look, the Trojans had a horse, and ISIS is basically doing the same thing. You know, you're witnessing these quote-unquote Syrian refugees be dispersed all over the world. We're seeing them be dropped in France, in Germany, in Italy. None of them are going to Saudi Arabia. Not a single one of them is going to Iran. None of them are going to Qatar. Is that not interesting? Should make you really question what's happening when none of the Islamic nations want these people? It's because they want to spread. It's like an infection. So they drop these quote-unquote refugees into Paris or here into the United States, and we expect them to be happy. We expect them to just change overnight. Well, ask Paris how they feel now. Immediately upon this, the French shut down their borders. Oh, interesting how they have borders, right? That they shut down. That's interesting. Unlike here in America, we don't have borders, according to our president. We don't need to build a wall. We need to be open. We need to bring in more refugees. A little more on that here in a bit. But look, what we witnessed in Paris was an absolute tragedy. And it's unfortunate that these imbeciles over at Mizzou, and this goes into hopefully what we can fit in a little later about liberalism, how it really is a mental disorder. A little something called histrionic personality disorder, where we saw this over the weekend. Mizzou decides that they're gonna jump on the bandwagon and say, I think they came up with a hashtag FUCK Paris or something like that. Excuse me, but I think what we saw in Paris and the terrorist attack we saw there was a little more important than some little spoiled brat making sure he got to complain that somebody else called somebody else a bad word and their feelings got hurt. So he chose not to eat. Give me a break. Look, you may think you got problems, but Paris had a problem. And if you think Paris, if you don't think what we saw in Paris can happen here in America, you're a damn fool. You've got your head so far up Obama's ass, if he swallowed, he'd crap your head out. You're that far in. It's unbelievable. Didn't mean to get too far off topic there, but so France shut their borders down, and within 48 hours, you would never see this from President Obama. Never. I think if 9/11 happened under Obama's watch, actually, I don't even want to think about it. I guarantee you he would not take action like we saw from the French. Within 48 hours, the French conducted operations in over a Syrian town called Raqqa. You know how the French say hello in Arabic? Boom! They dropped the damn bombs on them. Within 48 hours of their terrorist attack, we're seeing trending on YouTube, we're seeing a video come out from somebody on the ground on the launch pad where the French are launching their jets in incredible fashion. It was only like 15, 20 seconds long, but when you got 4 jets that are taking off and you know what they're getting ready to do is drop some ordnance on somebody's ass, oh, yeah, buddy. I only wish that we had a GoPro on each one of those little bombs and we watched it fly up their ass, up ISIS's ass, while the French took action. They didn't sit by, put on a new beret, and sip coffee or sip wine. Oh, hell no. They took action. But what's unfortunate is, get this, during Ignoramus's press conference today, this morning, after the G20, listen to this.
We've seen that when we have an effective partner on the ground, ISIL can and is pushed back. So local forces in Iraq, backed by coalition air power, recently liberated Sinjar. Iraqi forces are fighting to take back Ramadi. In Syria, ISIL's been pushed back from much of the border region with Turkey. We've stepped up our support of opposition forces who are working to cut off supply lines to ISIL's strongholds in around Raqqa. So in short, both in Iraq and Syria, ISIL controls less territory than it did before.
Listen here, you piece of crap! You did absolutely nothing in Raqqa! It was France! The little French berets got in their jets, dropped a damn bomb on their ass, and said, au revoir. Adios. And I know that I know I was mixing my Spanish and French there, but look, France said enough is enough. We're not playing your damn game. We're taking action. We are not afraid to call this radical Islamic terrorism. If only what President Obama said was true, we wouldn't have had to worry about this. You can't lead from behind. You can't tear the top off of a pixie stick and blow dust up people's ass and say, please don't do that. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. But finally, the liberal media is catching on. So they eviscerated him with their questioning. He was beside himself, absolutely beside himself, when these representatives in the media decided that they wanted to ask him questions about things. And by far, this was one of the best rounds of questions asked. And I didn't cut any of it. It's kept in its entirety. I didn't want to hear what Jackass had to say, so I cut it off. But, so, listen to this. Finally, the liberal media is catching on.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I wanted to go back to something that you said to Margaret earlier when you said that you have not underestimated ISIS's abilities. This is an organization that you once described as a JV team that evolved into a force that has now occupied territory in Iraq and Syria and is now able to use that safe haven to launch attacks in other parts of the world. How is that not underestimating their capabilities, and how is that contained, quite frankly? And I think a lot of Americans have this frustration that they see that the United States has the greatest military in the world. It has the backing of nearly every other country in the world when it comes to taking on ISIS. And I guess the question is, and if you'll forgive the language, is why can't we take out these bastards?
Yeah. Yes. Why can't we take them out? Because it's about time. You can't just sit on your hands and expect things to happen. It doesn't work that way. Oh, but don't worry. Don't worry. President Obama is so damn awesome. He's got to have a strategy, right? Really?
So a strategy has to be one that can be sustained. And the strategy that we're pursuing, which focuses on going after targets, limiting wherever possible the capabilities of ISIL on the ground, systematically going after their leadership, their infrastructure.
Wow. We have a strategy? I wish that everybody else knew that. I wish that Obama actually had a strategy. Because playing kiss ass is not a strategy. You can't have a strategy, a one-sided strategy. That crap doesn't work. And it's unfortunate that we've elected a president that has never served his country, never served in the military, and has any ounce of common sense on how you conduct a damn war or how strategy plays in. You can't have a fixed damn strategy when your opponent, when your enemy is like liquid. They're fluid. They are constantly changing. And they are consistent at it. They see Syrian refugees fleeing the country, thousands at a time. So what do? They jump on the back of Syrian refugees and say they're Syrian refugees, and they go get dropped off in France, and then we watch them shoot up a concert. We watch innocent lives be killed because nobody wanted to vet them. Because nobody in Washington understands what is happening. Those that do have, I'm not going to, that's too far of a conspiracy theory of claiming that two of the most powerful people had Iranian descent AIDS. That's conspiracy theory, so we're not even going to touch it. I'm a nice guy, I'm not going to do that. So here's another person in the media excoriating Obama at this summit.
I think a lot of people around the world and in America are concerned because given the strategy that you're pursuing, and it's been more than a year now, ISIS's capabilities seem to be expanding. Were you aware that they had the capability of pulling off the kind of attack that they did in Paris? Are you concerned, and do you think they have that same capability to strike in the United States? And do you think that, given all you've learned about ISIS over the past year or so, and given all the criticism about your underestimating them, do you think you really understand this enemy well enough to defeat them and to protect the homeland?
Oh, yeah. When somebody in the media actually says, Obama, do you actually understand the enemy? Oh, I wish you could have seen the look on his face when that question was posed. Because, oh my gosh, that was a fantastic question. Obama, do you even understand ISIS? Do you understand ISIL? Do you understand Daesh? Do you understand that calling them Daesh pisses them off? Or would you rather call them ISIL because you don't want to look bad and you want to support your friends and allies by not calling them Daesh and pissing them off? Oh. Here's another really, this is beautiful. Watching things unfold like this, it's almost an I told you so moment when somebody like CNN's Christiane Amanpour just is absolutely brutal about how Obama conducted himself. You just have to hear what she says for herself.
Expecting to hear in the passion and eloquence and speech patterns of President Obama a tipping point. They did not hear that today. And as you say, defensive when he was asked questions about American leadership, dismissing the notions of American leadership as mere slogans, seeming not to take into account the very palpable fear amongst citizens, certainly here in France, to an extent in the United States, certainly in the United Kingdom, everybody bracing for the worst of the worst to happen again. He said something that was pretty incredible, according to many of the military experts here and around the world who I've spoken to, that our strategy is working. People do not believe that to be the case. The only strategy that's working is the strategy that he tends to dismiss, and that's the ground troop strategy. Sinjar, Tikrit, Kobani, those are the only ISIS strongholds that have been taken back by a combination of American intelligence and air power and local ground forces, whether they're Iranian-backed militias in Tikrit, whether they're Kurdish Peshmerga and other Kurdish forces in Sinjar and in Kobani. This is a fact. He's saying that ISIS is contained. This also is not actually true. ISIS is not contained because ISIS attacked a Russian plane, attacked Beirut, and has now...
Oh, my word. Look, this is hilarious watching this unfold. It really is, because for so long they propped him up as the smartest person in the room, and this jackass believes he is. He actually believes he's the greatest person that's walked the planet. There is no humility in him whatsoever. He doesn't even understand his own hypocrisy. That's right. Obama's a damn hypocrite. But before we get into that, I want to touch on something that Amanpour said about strategy. I'm not going to get into the military tactics of anything, but I want to read to you what Sun Tzu said. Now, it's hard to dispute a lot of the things that Sun Tzu said, because when it comes to fighting a battle, if you don't understand your enemy or understand how to have a tactic-laden undertone into what you're doing, you will lose. Sun Tzu's The Art of War is almost like a pocket manual on how to do things. It's like a cheat sheet for war. So Sun Tzu says, all warfare is based on deception. Hence, when able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe we are near. So, as the enemy is near, and we think they're all the way on the other side of the world, Obama is crying that we in America don't have religious tests to open our doors and let people in. Oh, you don't think so? These are his words during this stupid press conference. Have a listen.
When I hear folks say that, well, maybe we should just admit the Christians but not the Muslims. When I hear political leaders suggesting that there would be a religious test for which person who's fleeing from a war-torn country is admitted, when some of those folks themselves come from families who benefited from protection when they were fleeing political persecution, that's shameful. That's not American. It's not who we are. We don't have religious tests to our compassion.
No, Mr. President, you're shameful. You're a stain on American excellence. where does the hypocrisy come in? When in the same press conference, you say this.
At the same time, all of our countries have to ensure our security. And as president, my first priority is the safety of the American people. And that's why even as we accept more refugees, including Syrians, we do so only after subjecting them to rigorous screening and security checks.
Oh, so we don't have religious tests, but we need to watch out for Americans, and we need to protect Americans because that's his fundamental job. That was something that he read on a cue card somewhere, because he doesn't obviously believe that. If he believed that, he would truly understand that vetting the people into your country is compassionate to those who are already in this country, legally in this country. It is not compassionate to open your door to 100 or 200,000 damn Syrian refugees and drop them in cities that don't want them when you've got 15 governors saying, nope, we're not taking them. Well, unfortunately, there's 35 others that are going to say, yes, oh, Mr. President, I'll kiss your ass. No. It doesn't work that way. Why do we need to worry about who comes in? Well, get this. 3 of some of the most deadliest terrorist attacks in the last 20 or so years. Let's go back to September 11th, 2001. In New York, 2,993 or more deaths at the hands of Islamic militants. Oh, but wait, there's more. August 14th in 2007. Via car bombs in Iraq, 796 deaths. You guessed it, Islamic militants. Previously to that, September 1st through the 3rd, 2004, we saw school hostages in Russia amount to 385 or so deaths. Thanks to, ding ding ding, we have a winner, Islamic militants. Do you see a pattern here? There's not a lot of Christians all over the world going around and flying airplanes into buildings. There are not a lot of Christians going around blowing car bombs in the middle of traffic or holding a school hostage. That doesn't happen. Why? Well, it's fundamental to Islam. It's okay to hate thy neighbor. As a Christian, you love thy neighbor. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how liberalism really is a mental disorder. We're going to have to buzz through that one because I really want to talk to you and touch on it real quick. We'll be right back.
Red Nation Rising brings you Town Hall Radio.
From a single tweet to 3 million a month, our community is a force to be reckoned with on social media.
So don't miss our show, Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern on K98 Talk.
Our chat room is our co-host, and you ask the question.
Join us and be heard.
So get ready to sound off on Red Nation Rising Radio. No one else is going to do it for you.
I'm not the type of guy that jumps into anything without first doing my research. And when I was looking for a holster, I'll admit I was having one heck of a time. You know what I'm talking about here. You find one you like, you try it on, it would be clunky. Another one fits good, but costs way too much. So you try on one last holster, it was slim, lightweight, priced right, but lo and behold, you slide your pistol in, and it falls right out. So what do? You've tried all these mass market holsters. Well, go custom. I know what you're thinking. I thought it too. Too pricey. Wrong. My guy over at Rebel Road Tactical will not only put together the perfect fitting, hand-molded, hand-assembled, custom Kydex holster, but but you'll get it at an affordable price. Don't wait. Contact Rebel Road Tactical today at 682-217-4579. Again, that's 682-217-4579. Place your order.
Stop it. It's the dramatic reinvention of talk radio.
Here come the Spy Dolphins.
The only thing that can cure racism is Robert E. Lee's penis.
Who named this cat Limberbutt McCubbin? A Trump-Biden debate.
Plugs versus rugs. Real serious nonsense. The show's so bad, you'll laugh at us.
The worst podcast. We obviously hold that title.
Mondays, 9 p.m. Eastern on K98 Talk.
Conservative in a world of liberal.
The Stafford Voice.
And welcome back. So, liberalism really is a mental disorder. And again, I've got to give kudos to one of my listeners for bringing this up to me, because he's heard me say that liberalism is a mental disorder for quite some time. And he threw a term at me, and this is, if you know him out on Twitter, give him a shout out, let him know that I'm talking about him. But at Army John, that guy's always got my six. He pointed me at something that I'm glad that I looked into. It's called histrionic personality disorder. And according to the American Psychiatric Association, it's a personality disorder characterized by a pattern of excessive attention-seeking emotions, usually beginning in early adulthood, including inappropriately seductive behavior and an excessive need for approval. They also have a high need for attention. They make loud and inappropriate appearances, exaggerate their behaviors and emotions, and they crave stimulation. Well, some of the associated features include egocentrism, self-indulgence, continuous longing for appreciation, persistent manipulative behavior to achieve their own needs. Even some of the characteristics include exhibitionist behavior, constant seeking of reassurance or approval, pride of own personality and unwillingness to change, viewing any change as a threat. Let's see, a need to be the center of attention, low tolerance for frustration or delayed gratification. I don't even want to touch that one. Tendency to believe that relationships are more intimate than they actually are, making rash decisions, being overly dramatic and emotional. Now, we were talking over on the Twitters about this, about what was happening in Mizzou, and he pointed me to this, and this really does explain the Liberal Party. Now, the Liberal Party always, I've contended, is the party of, if it feels good, just do it. There's no rationality to anything they do. Hell, if they see a hole, they plug it. They don't care. Look at Mizzou. Over the weekend, we've seen one of the worst tragedies in France's history since, 1944, since World War II. Okay? And they come up with a hashtag that basically says, hashtag Paris. And I'm not going to say that word, I'll spell it out to you, F-U-C-K. Hashtag F-U-C-K Paris. Because they were taking the attention away from them. So what happens? What happens? Obama says, he gets out there on TV and says, I appreciate what you're doing. You can do what you're doing, but do what you're doing. You know what I mean? You need to, look, you got a voice. Speak up, speak out. I have so much, I don't even know, I can't call it hate. That's too strong of a word. have so many feelings against him. I can't even put them into words. But this disorder, this histrionic personality disorder, it's most commonly referred to in the psychiatric world as HPD, really does it really does define the fact that liberalism really is a mental disorder. Okay. I really wanted to touch on that because it kind of gives perspective as to what we see happening on all these liberal campuses and what we see happening on the news and in all these other countries where they feel the need to uprise, and such as we saw at Mizzou and at the other colleges also. Unreal. So it's reassuring that there is an actual disorder that we can label them as, because you don't really want to say. It sounds much more polite to say, "Oh, you got histrionic personality disorder? Oh, no big deal, man. You'll be all right." You don't want to go up to him and say, "Oh, you're a liberal? Oh, dude, you seriously have a mental disorder. I'm not kidding. You got a mental disorder. You need to go get it checked out." Yeah, but anyway, you know what? We're going to take another quick break because I want to shift gears and I want to dive into On This Day in History, because this one was fun. I genuinely have so much fun putting these together. I will spend hours researching these for just to tell you in a couple of words what happened. There's so much involved in some of these stories, in some of this history. There's so much involved, and it's just fascinating. And I'm so glad and so happy that I can talk to you about it. So one of the other things before we go to break, I want to talk to you about is my good friends over at rwnjfunding.com. Look, this is more than just a crowdfunding site. I'm not going to tell you about these people because they're paying us to. They're not. I'm telling you about them because I genuinely believe in RWNJ funding, and I believe in what they're doing over there. And they're doing something so good that you really need to get out on social media and share what RWNJ funding is doing over there, because look, they're in a world where so many people are crying the PC game. They don't play the PC game. It's just not who they are. Look, these guys, they're true to conservative and libertarian ideals. They truly are a company that reflects constitutional values. They're not going to cave in. They're not going to cancel your campaign. The only person that has control over your campaign is you. And look, they believe in you just as much as you believe in yourself. Sometimes they even will put their own money where your mouth is. It's not too good to be true. If you want to test anything I'm saying, please go over to rwnjfunding.com and check out for yourself. Again, it's rwnjfunding.com. I have so many good things to say about those guys over there. They're absolutely fabulous. I believe in what their product is. Again, rwnjfunding.com. Go get over there and start your campaign today. You will be truly rewarded for doing so. Now, when we come back, we're going to touch on this day in history. We'll be right back.
K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com.
This is JD.
And this is Stacy.
Join us Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, for Game On. Remember,
lock up the children and the old folks.
Game On, the home of liberservative conservatism.
Where no one is safe, no one is spared, not even the hosts.
Oh, that was supposed to be a spin cycle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We love you anyway. Right round, baby.
Self-monitoring
right
Ebola
round.
radio strikes again.
Anyway.
Anybody see the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? For God's sake, I need an antidote.
Just do your rant. Let's pop out of the segment.
Has to do with
Find us on Twitter at JD and Stacy.
You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whether you're an employee or business owner, when it comes to the correct course of legal action, it's the first step that is important. And make that first step with attorney Ted Hong. You need someone you can trust and has the experience you need when it comes to workplace and employment law. If you've lost your employment due to discrimination, false accusations, or being denied benefits, you need Ted Hong. Or if you're an employer who wants to ensure compliance with workplace regulations and labor contracts, you need Ted Hong. Ted and his team also cover family and property law and estate litigation as well. Ted has over 30 years of experience, and him and his amazing legal team will provide you cost-effective legal consultation and make the experience all about you and your needs. For more information or to set up a consultation, contact the law office of Ted Hong at 808-933-1919 or visit tedhonglaw.com. Ted Hong, an experienced and principled attorney you can trust. 808-933-1919 or tedhonglaw.com.
Conservative in a world of liberal.
The Stafford Voice.
All right, we're back. That's right. I'm your host, Daniel Stafford. And this is the Stafford Voice, where we are conservative in a world of liberal. And I know that we're probably going to go over a little long, but hopefully that's okay. But we had so much stuff to pack into the show tonight. I really was concerned that we wouldn't be able to. But look, back in 1776, a Hessian lieutenant general named Wilhelm von Kniphausen and a force of roughly 3,000 Hessian mercenaries and 5,000 redcoats laid siege to Fort Washington. Well, initially Washington considered abandoning the fort, but Nathanael Greene swayed him otherwise. And Greene thought it would keep communications across the river open, so Washington decided not to abandon the fort. Well, while British General William Howe decided to have a multi-directional attack, Hessian troops under the command of Kniphausen would attack the fort from the north, and Hugh Percy would lead a brigade of Hessians and several British battalions from the south. And Lord Cornwallis with the 33rd Regiment of Foot and General Edward Matthew with the light infantry were to attack from the east. And there was this other one of the other multi-direction, the other directions of attack would come by way of a feint. And the feint was going to be led by the 42nd Highlanders. Now, a feint is used to either divert action to a certain area or to draw the opponent into an ambush. Kniphausen led the initial advance from the north, and the first and second charges were held off. At the same time, to the south, Percy and his some 3,000 men advanced to the distance of about 200 yards from the American lines. Well, when they reached that point, they stopped their advancement in order for the feint to take place. Well, at the same time, another wave of attacks were getting ready to come upon the shore, and this forced Americans in all different directions, and ultimately moving British artillery lines to the location where Washington, Greene, Putnam, and Hugh Mercer were. they immediately left Manhattan, sailing across the Hudson to Fort Lee. Well, Washington wanted to wait until nightfall so all the Americans could retreat. Ongoing pressure led to the surrender by garrison commander Colonel Robert McGaw around 3 p.m., and the American flag to finally be brought down around 4 p.m. Well, not to be outdone, 7 years later on November 25th, 1783, with the peace treaty signed, General Washington and Governor George Clinton reclaimed Fort Washington as they marched toward Lower Manhattan after the last British forces had left New York. Well, so on this day in history, November 16th, 1776, Fort Washington was captured. Oh, there was so much more involved in that attack that led up to it, and because the British actually got this, it set them up for other battles. But ultimately, in the end, we know how it works out. So we won. We kicked their ass. Anyway, so you guys hear that? That's right. Judging by that sound, it is time for Who Said That? So Who Said That, if you're a new listener out there, Who Said That is, we end the show on a high note or low note. It really depends on how bad how bad this little soundbite is. But it doesn't matter if they're a liberal, conservative, libertarian, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. If they're saying something incredibly stupid, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are completely stuck on stupid, then we're going to highlight them. And this week, bravo for this guy. I mean, this guy may actually have changed my mind on the whole issue. And I'll explain here in just a second, but check out what he's got to say.
What happens, say, in Syria, for example, and there's some thought about this, is that when you have drought, when people can't grow their crops, they're going to migrate into cities. And when people migrate into cities and they don't have jobs, there's going to be a lot more instability, a lot more unemployment, and people will be subject to the types of propaganda that Al-Qaeda and ISIS are using right now. So where you have discontent, where you have instability, that's where problems arise. And certainly, without a doubt, climate change will lead to that.
Okay, so yes, that was Bernie Sanders. He was being questioned about how climate change fits into why we're seeing a rise in ISIS. And kudos to Bernie Sanders. He really pulls this one out of his old wrinkled ass and tries to really convince you that, look, maybe climate change is the biggest threat to society these days. Maybe it is. Because every time somebody keeps talking about climate change, there's another attack. It's mind-boggling. And to think that the reason why Syrians are leaving their country because they can't grow crops is ridiculous. I personally don't think people are leaving Syria because they can't grow tomatoes. They're not leaving Syria because their corn just won't grow. That's not happening, Mr. Bernie Sanders. No. It's not. It's because of radical Islamic terrorism of why we see the things in the world that we see. It's not because of climate change. Now, if you think that it's climate change and we need to bring these Syrian refugees over here to the United States because we can grow some stuff, okay? In the Midwest, you got wheat, you got corn. Out in the backyard, we've got tomatoes, we've got jalapenos, we've got bell peppers. I mean, we can grow some stuff out in the backyard, okay? We've even got citrus trees out in Florida. You got other stuff you can grow in Texas. I mean, you got pig farms like crazy in Oklahoma. I mean, those guys are growing bacon left and right, and that's awesome in itself. But look, if this is where I'm going with this, maybe climate change really is the biggest threat that we're faced with, because if climate change is making people leave out of the Middle East, and we feel the need to bring them over here, maybe that is a big threat to American society. I don't know. Call me crazy or call me maybe. I don't know. Anyway, look, Bernie Sanders, you have just proved to the world that you are stuck on stupid. Now, we're going to end with that. Yes, we did go a little long tonight, and hopefully we don't get in too much trouble. Hopefully they're not just sitting there trying to kick me off the server or whatever. But you know what? That's all the time we've got for this week. And wow, we really packed a lot into this show. But God willing, the Stafford Voice, your host, Daniel Stafford, will be back next week. You can follow me over on the Twitters at Stafford Voice. Look me up on Facebook by looking for the Stafford Voice. Email your questions, comments, concerns, love mail, hate mail. I'll answer them all. Send them all over to thestaffordvoice@gmail.com. Again, that's thestaffordvoice@gmail.com. Thank you so much for your time, and until next week, thanks and God bless.
You're listening to Rebooting Liberty Radio Network, compelling and entertaining talk.
Don't touch that dial.